Assalamu alaikum. My name is Dr. Usman Paracha and this is lecture number 7 of the subject Applied Quantitative Analysis and Practices. So previously what we were going through was regarding SPSS, but the main important thing was how to calculate the three important aspects of central tendency concept in SPSS. So the three central concepts like mean, median, mode, they were applied and used in SPSS, and we used some other different tools to effectively analyze the data through different ways. So in this case, the main model which was used is that of the impact of certain human resource management practices on the attitude and behavior of the employees within an organization, and we just use certain questions to measure such concepts, and then again we basically entered such data in SPSS, and then we were basically trying to apply all the basic concepts of the central tendency on a few questions of such concepts which whose data has been entered in SPSS. So basically we went through how to display that data, how to get frequency table, how to get frequency charts in this software, then how can we get the histogram results based on the data which we have entered in SPSS, and then how we can get the basic variable information in SPSS. Similarly, we basically tried to get the summary results of as many variables we want to have in SPSS, and we also went through how to select certain cases, how to deselect certain cases which are basically respondents in this case, and then we also went through how to compute new variables, and basically these variables can be calculated from the combination of some previous variables being used within the data set, and they can also be calculated from a single questionnaire item data which has been entered, and only from that a new total variable can be created as well. So there are many ways to get the result in SPSS from the data set which we just demonstrated in previous lectures. So coming to the next topic, here what we would be going through is just a small conventional example of central tendency, and here as you can see that there are certain house prices listed on your left side of the screen, and then we calculated the sum, and conventionally if we want to calculate the mean, then we can just divide this total sum with the total number of values and we can get the mean. Similarly, in order to get the median, we just get through the middle value, because this is the odd number of values which are entered here, and if the odd number of values are there, then all what we have to do is to select the center value, and here this is 300,000. Then coming to the next one is the mode, which represents the most frequent value here, and here in this case the most frequent value is 100,000, which has occurred 2 times basically. So this is a simple conventional way of calculating this central tendency concepts. But coming to the next thing, basically you see mean is generally used as it is deliberated here, but mean is affected by outliers. That is one of the discrepancy of this tool in central tendency. Then again, median is often chosen also, but there are issues with median as well. But one advantage of the median is that normally it is not affected by outliers, which is its one core competency, you can say. But then it is not the one and all tool which can only be used to represent any kind of data set. So normally we use a combination of mean and median both in order to know the various characteristics of the data set in this case. Then another measure of central tendency is the geometric mean and the geometric rate of return. Now basically this is used to calculate the rate of change of variable over a certain period of time, as you can see from the conventional formula, which is represented by xg bar, which is basically the geometric mean of certain set of numbers or data set, and it is equivalent to the multiplication of various data values which are entered with the approximation of with the superscript of 1 divided by n. And then again we have got a geometric mean rate of return, and it measures the status of an investment over time. Then again it is represented by rg bar, and then we are enlisted with a certain formula which is used to calculate the geometric mean of certain number of values. Now here r is the rate of return of a certain period of time here, which is normally represented here with I. So these are the conventional formulas which are used, but then we can elaborate it more clearly through an example. So let's say there's an investment of 100,000 which has declined to 50,000 over a certain period of time, that is, let's say at the end of first year, but it came back and rebounded to 100,000 at the end of the second year. So here we are basically dealing with three values. One is the original 100,000, which declined to 50,000, and then it was raised to 100,000 again. So let's say during the first year there was a 50% decrease, and then in the second year there was again 100% increase. But overall the rate of return can be seen as nil because it came back to the same level. So then if we calculate these conventional figures, so if we calculate the typical average or arithmetic mean, so then by taking the average of negative 0.5, which represents the downfall of the investment, with addition of 100%, and it is divided by 2, it represents a 25% basically arithmetic mean. But then this is kind of misleading, because at the end of the cycle there was no rate of change in this case. So then coming to the geometric mean, which is rate of return here, if we apply the conventional formula, we are given the answer of 0%, which is basically the true representative result, because in reality the rate of return was 0. Now this is one of the competency of geometric mean, which is very effective in analyzing a certain kind of data which is occurring over a certain period of time. And if we are trying to find out certain aspects like rate of change or the aspects of time in a certain investment, then this kind of central tendency measure is very much effective in letting us know that what is actually the situation which has happened over a certain period of time. So therefore, in total we can say that these are the four main important concepts of central tendency which you can see. One is the arithmetic mean, which we represented by the formula we have done before. Then is the median, which again is the middle value of any kind of ordered array which can be presented. Then mode again is the most frequent value which has occurred in the previous data sets. And then in geometric mean, just like we have studied now, it's the rate of change of a certain variable over time. So these are the four concepts which are very much emphasized while studying the data set. This is the first step in trying to evaluate what the initial characteristics of the data set are, and from there we can draw our initial conclusions. So from that aspect, these four are important, though all of them have got certain advantages and disadvantages, but then normally now this is the practice that we kind of report nearly all the aspects, specifically mean and median, in all kind of data analysis which are to be used in any kind of business research or business administration issue investigation. So then there are more basically measures which are used to explain various characteristics of the data, and these measures are in fact the second step of trying to know the characteristics of data. First, when we have got through the initial screening through central tendency measures, then these measures of variation, as they are called, are the most important ones. So there are four important measures in this case. One is the range, the second is the variance, the third is the standard deviation, and fourth is the coefficient of variation in this case. So what is the measure of variation basically? It gives us details about the spread of the data around its mean, that how much far values are lying as compared to the main mean of that whole data set. So it gives us the whole structure of the data, it gives us the whole picture of the data, that where is the spread and how much variable the data is, how much dispersed the values are. Definitely we can only find out this dispersion when we are basically using a certain value as a reference, as a benchmark, and basically such value which is used as a reference or as a benchmark is the mean value. So nearly all measures of variation are calculated from that mean value, because they take that mean value as a reference, as a central point, and then from that reference they try to explain the position of other values, and once we have a certain reference and based on those reference we know the position of other values, then we can determine the whole spread of the data in this case. So here again we are seeing a diagram in which we are seeing two curves, and basically if you look closely here, both of the curves have got the same center, and if we hypothetically consider these curves as a set of values which are placed at certain point, and we have just plotted these values here, and these values are making these curves, then from these two different data sets and from these two different curves, we can see that both have got the same mean, both have got the same central position. So the central point, which is also the average or the mean, is the same, but the spread of the data is different. So from these two curves, you can see that we have discussed that they have got the same center, they have got the same mean, and but the data spread is different. Now you can see here that this curve basically, this has got a more sharp peak, more higher peak here, and in this case we can assume that all the values which basically this curve represent are very close to this center, which is shown here with the dotted line here. So basically the more closer these values are to the mean here, the more higher that curve is, which is shown here. However, on the other hand, if we see the other curve which is shown here, in this case you can see that its height is lower and the values are more widespread along this horizontal axis. So basically there are values which are more farther from the main center, from the mean. So basically these measures of variation are used to explain such kind of data spread, because this is very important that we have to know about one vital characteristic of any kind of data set, and that is that how much the values are spread. And in other words, let's say coming to the model in which we were trying to ask the respondent about what is his or her opinion about training management practice in his or her organization. So we want to try to assess through his response, which may rate from 1 to 5, and we would like to know that, let's say 200 respondents answered that one question and they all answered in between 1 to 5. So we would like to know that from these 200 values, how much values were close to the mean, and how much variability was in those answers in the form of numbers. So the more variable the answers are, the more inconsistent the answers are, or the more far spread the values are from the mean, that means that the respondents have more and more different opinion. They are not having a consensus on a certain question. So the more these values are closer to the mean or closer to one specific value, then that means that they are having a certain consensus. So basically we would have a look at it in SPSS as well. So the main aspect of variation is to explain the certain data set characteristics more effectively by explaining the variation of data. But again, this is important that any variation of data is calculated by taking the mean or average value as a reference. So coming to the first measure of variation, it's called the range. The most simplest measure, as it is explained here, we can calculate the range by simply subtracting the largest value in a data set with the smallest value. So here you can see the example that we have got some range of values, and in some values where there are 2 or 3 dots, they represent I would say repetition of the values in the data set. but the range is calculated from the highest value, which is 13, with the smallest value, which is 1 here. So the range here is 12 here in this case. But one discrepancy of range is that it's very sensitive to outliers. So if there is any extreme value in any kind of data set, then it would affect the calculation of range. So coming to this aspect, as we discussed before, this aspect can be misleading. And here we are given two examples, in which first one, the values range from 7 to 12, and we have just calculated the range by simply subtracting 12, in fact 7 from 12, and we have calculated the range, which is 5. However, on the other data set, the situation is quite different. Though the values range from 7 to 12, but there the 12 has been repeated 3 times. So again, from the same data set, basically if we subtract the extreme value with the smallest value, we get the same range. So though it's very quite evident from here that the two data sets are quite different. Similarly, again, as we discussed before, that this property of measures of variation is quite sensitive to very large or small values. And here we can see that there are a set of values ranging from 1 to 5, and we have just calculated the range by subtracting 1 from 5, which is the highest value, and the range is 4. But the same data set is presented with only one difference, that the end value is 120, which is an extremely high value as compared to the values presented here. So if we subtract this range highest value with the lowest one, we get 119. Now this 119 is quite misleading, because in actual sense the data set comprises of numbers which are quite small. But the problem is that because of one outlier and because of the presence of one extremely high value, the whole range value is deranged in this case. So coming to the next measure of variation, also termed as variance or sample variance. And by sample variance here we mean that this variance has been calculated from a certain sample of respondents or sample of values, not the whole population. So it's quite different, because sample properties are different, and that's why statistics simply deals with sample, not with the population in this case. And that's why we would have a totally different notation for population variance and a total different variation for sample variance as well. Now the calculation of this specific measure can be done through the formula which you can see here, and it's represented by S square, which represents sample square, sample variance in fact, and that's equivalent to the summation of I is 1 to n, and xi minus x bar is in total, and the square of that divided by n minus 1. Here x bar is, as we have seen before, it's the thematic mean, and n is the sample size, and likewise the ith value of the variable x is presented here. So sample variance is represented through this formula, and it just tells us how much variance is there in the data. It does not have any specific end limit, I would say. And in this case you can see that when we are calculating the variance, it can end up to any number. So that's why there's no specific end limit here. The units of the variance are that of the same as that of the variable of whom the variance is being calculated. That's a big disadvantage of using variance. We will discuss this in detail afterwards. So another measure of variation is sample standard deviation. Again, it's the most commonly used one. Like all measures of variation, it shows us the variation about the mean, and it's the square root of the variance, and it has got the same unit as the original data. So here sample standard deviation can be easily calculated. We have just taken the square root as evident from there. So sample standard deviation basically is the same thing, but with the only difference is that we are using the square root here of the same formula used for variance. If we want to explain this in steps, all what we have to do is that we have to compute the difference between each value and the mean value. Then we can just square the each difference and then add them. And if we divide this whole thing by n minus 1, then we can get the sample variance. And if we get the under root or square root of that sample variance, we can easily get the sample standard deviation. So these are various steps, basically various steps which have been presented in summary to calculate the standard deviation, to calculate the variance for your convenience. Now basically this is one example of how to calculate the standard deviation. We are given a certain data set which ranges from 10 to 24, and the n here is 8 because number of values presented are 8 here, and the mean value as calculated, which is represented by x bar, and again the mean value will be represented by x bar in any future cases which will be presented here. So mean calculated here is 16. Now all what we have to do is to deploy all these values in the standard formula, and in this case all what we have done is we have deployed all these values, and then at the end through various steps we can get the answer, which is 4.30. Now basically, as it is shown here, that it's the average scatter around the mean. It gives us a brief information of the nature of data which is spread across, and this is the average spread there. That's what standard deviation tells us, and that's why standard deviation is mostly used in representing any kind of data set, and this is the basic information, basic characteristic which is first calculated to in order to calculate more complex relationship phenomena. So this is the basics here which we are dealing with. Now here we are seeing some different examples having different data sets and having different data spreads, but due to their nature of data spread, their standard deviation is also different. Let's say in case of data A, we are presented with a set of values ranging from 11 to 21. Now mean in this case is 15.5, and the standard deviation is 3.33, which is a bit higher as compared to other values here. Now coming to data B, it's evident here that there's a set of values which are round about more centered between 14 and 17 to be exact, and here the mean is the same as that of the previous data set, but the standard deviation is very low, which is 0.92. Now coming to data C here, we are dealing with values which are at extreme end, ranging from 11 to 20. Again we are having the same mean, which is 15.5, but the standard deviation is very high, which is 4.5 here. Now basically, if we have a closer look at all these three data sets, what we can see is that in first case the data is kind of more evenly spread and we have got certain standard deviation result. But then in the second data set, the values are very closer to each other. That means that data is closer to its mean. Now the closer the data is to its mean, the lower is the standard deviation which has been reported here. And in case of data C, this is evident that farther the values are from the mean, the higher is the standard deviation. So basically in this case, this is one additional advantage of standard deviation, that we can get additional characteristic of a certain data set through standard deviation, though they may have the same central tendency measures. Like here in this case, you can see that the mean is the same, but the standard deviation of all three data sets is quite different. So that's why standard deviation is very much commonly used to explain any kind of data set, and it's a very important phenomena. So now coming here on diagrammatically now, now it's very much evident that we have got the same two curves we discussed before, and in this case we can see the curve which is higher represents the values which are very close to the mean, and thus the closer they are to the mean, their standard deviation is more and more smaller, and the farther these values are from the mean, the higher is the standard deviation. So these two curves gives us additional information of the characteristic of data set which may be showing the same central tendency values, but the difference can be calculated and can be evident from the standard deviation factor. So that's why it's one of the most important thing used in quantitative analysis. So again, the summary characteristics, as we discussed before, is the more is the data farther away from the mean, the higher are all the measures of variation. Higher is the range, higher is the variance, and then again higher is the standard deviation. And the more is the data confined to the mean central value, which is also called the arithmetic mean, then the smaller is the range, the smaller is the variation, and the smaller is the standard deviation now. Now, hypothetically, if all these values are same, then that means there is no variation at all. So all these measures like range or variance and standard deviation would be zero, because all what these values are trying to portray is the dispersion of values from the mean. Now if these values are the same, that means that there is no variation. These values are focused on at only one point, and there is no dispersion, there is no variation. So that means that all these measures would be zero. Now again, the rule of thumb is that none of these measures can ever be negative, because it would not make any sense at all. So that's why all these measures are always taken as positive, and that is one of the most important thing. So these measures basically are the most important concept of measures of variation in this case. And another important aspect in this measure of variation is the coefficient of variation in this case. And coefficient of variation basically is also a relative term. So basically we are trying to portray the same information in terms of percentage. So this is again showing us the variation relative to the mean. And again, once we are converting the variation, once we are converting the all the measures of variation into percentage, that means that then we can compare these values with the variation figure of any other data set. So basically we have got a generalized form here in the form of coefficient of variation, which is quite effective, because normally if you want to compare two different sets of variation measures, then it's very difficult, because the two data sets may have got different units. So in order to counter that, all of these variation measures, if they are converted into percentage with specific formula, then these values can easily be compared with totally different data sets if it is required. So that's why the formula of coefficient of variation is evident here, which is the standard deviation divided by the arithmetic mean of that specific data set multiplied by 100. So this basically gives us a more relevant figure which can be compared across the board with different kind of variables. So here in this case there is a conventional example that, let's say we have got a certain stock whose average price is termed as $50 here. Now standard deviation reported from the rest of the data values is $5. So if we divide 5 with 50 and multiply with 100, then we get a certain figure which is 10%, which is the coefficient of variation in this case. Now compared to this stock A, let's see stock B here, whose average price is more, which is $100, and then we have divided the standard deviation with 100 multiplied by 100%, which gives us 5% here. That gives us a bit different information, because it does represent that though the standard deviation of all these stocks are the same, but the stock B is showing less variation as compared to its price. So again, coefficient of variation can be very effective in giving us another view or another dimension of these data characteristics. So this is again very vital for further analysis in this case. Now here there is another example which we are seeing with a certain stock A, which is the same, and on the other hand we have got a stock C which is having a different average price, which is $8, but the standard deviation is less again. So if we calculate it, then it seems that the coefficient of variation is 25%. Now here you must notice that the stock C has got less standard deviation, but the coefficient of variation is very much higher. So that means that if we use coefficient of variation as well to in order to know about the various characteristics of a data set, then it could give us more additional crucial information which can be used to assess the data. Let's say we want to have a look at two different kind of data sets with the same I would say unit or even a different unit. Then coefficient of variation as depicted here can easily tell us about and can easily give us the facility of comparing these coefficients and can tell us some difference or the intensity of the difference between these two different data sets. So if we want to calculate now these measures of variation in SPSS and what is the practical implication of that, then we can have a look at it as well. So let's go to SPSS here. Now, as in SPSS, we are seeing the same file which we have used before. Again, this file represents the answers of the questions which we put forward to various respondents, and the respondents had to rate about the various human resource practices which exist within their organization. And here you can see that tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 and etc., all these represent some various dimensions of training practice. Now, if we want to calculate the measures of variation, as we have discussed before, then it's very simple. We can just go and click on Analyze, and we can go to Descriptive Statistics again here, and let's click on the frequencies. Now, here in frequencies, again, as we did before, we just have to mention the variable which we want to select. So let's say we want to select the training, and I think let's say we just want to select the first 3 questions of training variable. Now, going to the statistics button, which is displayed in this dialog box. So now you can see that these statistics, as we have done before for central tendency, can be used to report the measures of variation as well. So here basically you can see on the top side there are certain central tendency options available, which are mean, median, mode and sum, and below you can see on the left side there are measures of dispersion displayed here, and if we take on these, the SPSS can report the measure of dispersion here, which is termed as standard deviation, variance and range. So let's click on these 3, and let's click Continue. Now here we are in no need for the frequency table, so we deselect it, and neither we are in requirement for a chart. So let's click on chart. There's none selected already, so that's okay. We click on Continue, and we click on OK, and let's go to the output window here. Now you can see that we have been reported these characteristics of these first 3 questions of training variable, which are standard deviation, variance and range. And you can see that the standard deviation here is round about the same, with the exception of training variable 3. Then there's a difference in variance, but all of them have got the same range. So this is one way to display these measures of variation in SPSS. However, we can port it forward in another way as well. So let's go to Analyze and go to Descriptive Statistics, and let's have a look at descriptives here. Now if we click on this thing, let's click on the training variable 1, 2 and 3, and let's go to options. Here again you can see that we can also calculate the same measure of dispersion through descriptives option as well, and let's click on variance and range. So we can click on Continue, and we can click OK, and let's go to the output window here. Now here you can see the same information which was displayed through a different tool can be used through another tool of SPSS as well, and we can calculate these things through various tools in the SPSS. So let's go again to analyze and go to descriptive statistics here. Let's click on explore option here and select the same three variables in dependent list. So training variable 1, 2 and 3, and let's click on statistics here. So again descriptives here are enlisted. Let's click on outliers and click on continue, and let's click on OK and have a look at the output window as well. So here you can see that training variable 1 is being reported with the same measures of variation. We have got variance, we have got standard deviation, we have got minimum maximum values, we have got range. So basically the same results can be assessed from this explore option as well. So all of these have been reported with varying I would say details through various different options through analyze option here, and this can be used effectively to know these different characteristics of different kind of data sets here. And we can do some additional tools here, like you can just click on the data, and if you want to copy the whole data set to another data set, you can just click on copy data set, and this whole new data set will be copied to a totally new window which will be opened as an untitled one, and you can save it with another name. So this is one of the facilities given in SPSS if you want to have a copy of the same thing here. So likewise there are many different options for the facilitation of the users here, which you can use and which we will discuss in the future lectures. So coming to the lecture here, so what we did in this lecture was regarding measures of variation. What were the different measures which are used, like range, variance, standard deviation and coefficient of variation. Again, all these are very important measures. This is the second phase of trying to identify various characteristics of the data set. But among all these measures, one thing is common, that the mean is being taken as a reference while calculating nearly all of these measures of variation, with the exception of range, of course. They all have again some advantages and disadvantages, but among them standard deviation is the most common used feature in nearly all types of analysis, and it's basically it's the same formula of variance, but with the only difference that we use square root on that. Other than that, the coefficient of variation tool again is the conversion of standard deviation data into percentage, so that such values can be compared across the board with different kind of data sets. All of these four variation measures are most frequently used. They are always reported and always observed. That's why this second tier, which is also called measure of variation, is of primary importance. Later on we will see that nearly all the important methodologies which are used to calculate or to analyze certain set of variables use standard deviation as a base. Then what we did was the SPSS application of these four concepts which we discussed right now. And in SPSS, in order to calculate these four values, we basically use different tools, and normally again the interpretation of these values is important, because let's say we basically try to find out the variance of the training variable 1 of the data which was related to it in SPSS, and the variance or the standard deviation which it showed, it gave us vital information regarding how spread the data was, whether it was focused or not, whether the respondents were agreeing to a single point or they were not agreeing to a single point. And range basically told us what was the highest ranking and what is the lowest rating of the questionnaire item with the rating which was done by respondents. So the standard deviation or coefficient of variation, it does tells us a bit about the behavior of respondents, the way they rated these different numerical values. So this is the vital information which we always want to assess through these formulas, and again through the application of SPSS. Again, in SPSS there is facilitation of getting this information through different features, but it's up to the user that which tool is more user friendly for him or for her in order to generate the results. So basically all of them are preferred. There's no one preferred methodology to calculate these 4 different mayas. So as we have discussed these various mayas of variation, this is pertinent to say that it does not diminish the importance of mayas of central tendency as well. Mayas of variation, like what we have discussed in range, variance, standard deviation, and coefficient of variation, their importance is there, because obviously by now you must have observed that these mayas of variation give us quite much more information of the data as compared to measure of central tendency. But again, the thing is that measure of central tendency importance remains there. Both of them basically measures are standardly reported, and in this case the central tendency focus have given us one clue that they have got severe discrepancies in reporting most specifically the dispersion of data detail, and in this case measures of variation factor gives that thing in more detail as compared to that. But nonetheless, in both cases, like measures of central tendency and measures of variation, both are reported alongside with each other. In this case, up till standard deviation, it is all right, because standard deviation among these measures of variation is mostly used, and that's why standard deviation factor is the one which is primarily considered in many future formulas for many sophisticated analytical techniques. As compared to that, coefficient of variation importance is not that much, because if you look at the formula from that perspective, you will come to know that this is just a percentage which is just giving us an interpretation of the standard deviation in another way. So the real figure basically lies with the standard deviation, and again based on that, just to compare that whether any measure of variation is more effective than measures of central tendency will not be advisable, because each measure, whether it's central tendency or whether it's measures of variation, has got its own importance, and both of them should be equally taken into consideration while assessing the characteristic of the data. So in this case, however, among measures of variation, if we are to be sure that which characteristic is most commonly used in formulas in other sophisticated techniques ahead, then that surely is the standard deviation. And we have basically here portrayed in SPSS application as well that all these descriptive measures, whether they are measures of variation or central tendency, all of them are reported when we ask the SPSS to explore the data from different perspectives. So basically from importance aspect in future regression as well, standard deviation will be repeated again and again, as we will see. And also we will see that even the results of regression are then interpreted in terms of standard deviation. So that makes the standard deviation concept very important in this case. Thank you so much. I hope you have understood this whole lecture. We will be having more detailed discussion on the sophistication of these main concepts in future lectures. So thank you so much again. Allah Hafiz.